Hello, everybody. We are live. Welcome to another live stream. This is kind of a revamped live stream, I guess, where I'm going to be hanging out with you all, also maybe covering a topic. Lately, it's been Zen poems. I've been reading Zen poems lately, ones that have really impacted my practice, but also have impacted my life. I do want to do some live streams with some koans. People are very interested in those, and perhaps next time we'll be doing that. Now, I believe my last live stream was 2 weeks ago. It was on a Friday, so it was very odd. Odd timing, I guess, for most. And it was a different day and different time, so I'm going back to doing these live streams right now. So Thursdays at 12 p.m. Pacific time, and probably doing them every other week. That's the current plan. So anyways, the first thing I like to do is go into the chat and see who's here. If you haven't already, let us know in the chat where you were living. So let's see. First, not surprising, is Cesare. Hey, Cesare. Cesare was here at 11:08 a.m. It's now 12:03 p.m. So almost an hour ago, Cesare's been hanging out. Oh, but I do see, okay, the very end comment, Cesare says, I will have to catch the video tomorrow. Have fun. So he was here and now disappeared. Anyways, Cesare, always good to see you. Helena, I haven't heard from you in a while. It seems like anyways. Helena says, good evening from South Africa. Good to have you back. I'm glad you're here. We have, let's see, Michael. Michael's here. Hey, Michael, good to see you. Michael says, hello all. Mr. Jet Mango, welcome back. Mr. Jet Mango says, hi, guys. You probably already know this, unless you're just joining. This is your first time. I usually read everything in the chat. There's a couple reasons. If there's people watching on Facebook, they can't see the chat that's happening on YouTube. And if you are on YouTube watching the stream, you can't see anything happening on Facebook. So that's one of the reasons why I read them. Also, I just enjoy hearing from you. So also, my streams are not that, I don't have hundreds of people in here, so I can actually read every comment in the stream. So again, welcome to this live stream. I titled it Going Beyond Life and Death. That's an interesting title. It's the first thing that came to my mind when I read this poem, but we'll get into that. Let's see who else is here. Ian's here. Hey, Ian. Welcome. Ian says hello. Ricky's here. Hey, Ricky. Long time no hear. He says hello. Or Ricky says hello. Adam. Hey, Adam. Good to see you. Ricky here in Alabama. Man, I'm still surprised, or at least to remember that you lived there. It sounds like a challenging place to live. Cesare. Oh, okay. We already heard that. Ian says, here from North Carolina, practicing at a Zen center in the lineage of Suzuki Roshi. Wonderful. Thank you for being here. Glad you're here. So again, welcome to the live stream. I'm going to share a Zen poem with you. Now, I teach in the Quantum School of Zen. And when when a student is having the first koan interview, we read a poem before we say anything about koans. Usually we get to meet the person, make a little connection, but it's the very first thing that people read. And this poem, over the years, I've heard people for the first time when they've read it, something really strikes their mind when they read this poem. So that's why I wanted to share it with you. And it has an interesting perspective, because we know there's a lot of ideas out there. There's a lot of beliefs, even in Buddhism. And then there's Zen. So we'll get into that. So Ricky, yeah, it's very challenging. Kwansen Bosa, you'll be the bodhisattva to help all beings. So let me share this poem with you. It's called The Human Root. So one thing I want to say about the human root is I've heard that they can't find the author of this poem. It's definitely a Zen poem. And I know a scholar who's actually a Zen master who traced back this poem to a Korean monk who was living in the 1400s. I'm not remembering the name right now. Like, I think it's Na Ong Sinim. But as always with anything, the source is really not important. Most important is what are these words pointing to? So the first line, coming empty-handed, going empty-handed. That is human. When you are born, where do you come from? When you die, where do you go? Life is like a floating cloud which appears. Death is like a floating cloud which disappears. The floating cloud itself originally does not exist. Life and death, coming and going, are also like that. But there is one thing which always remains clear. It's pure and clear, not depending on life and death. Then, what is the one pure and clear thing? So after reading that poem, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? Put it down in the chat. I'll be curious to hear it. I've heard all kinds of different things, depending on your background, your conditioning, what you practice, things like that. By the way, if you're just joining us, welcome to this live stream. I guess I titled it Waking Up, Going Beyond Life and Death. Every day Zen live stream. If you haven't already, let us know in the chat where you are living. And also, this also is a good chance to ask any kind of question you may have about Zen, meditation, life, your practice, any kind of question. Feel free to put it in the chat. I believe last time I was reading some, talking some, answering some questions, and then coming back. Adam, a few years ago, I placed this poem on the gravestone of my daughter and mother. That's powerful. And I remember you telling me this. That really hit me, Adam. Thank you for sharing that. So let's look at the very first line. So again, what's really important about any kind of Zen teaching, I was going to say Zen poems, but any kind of Zen teaching is to see what the words are pointing to. So all of the words are pointing to something. So we're going to explore that. Ian, interesting. First thing coming to my mind is wind blowing through the grass. Now I have a question for you, Ian. Is that something you just perceived or just something that came up in your mind? Curious. That's important. Ricky, for some reason, I'm reminded of Dogen Zenji. Interesting. So this first line, coming empty-handed, going empty-handed, that is human. You know, I've been making a lot of videos about the human condition. If you watched one, I made a previous video about death and how thinking about death can actually help clarify our life and purpose. But if you look at the human condition, it's interesting. We come into this world. Now, first of all, we didn't decide to come into this world. Did you choose to be born where you were? And when? So you come into this world, not by your choice, or at least conscious choice. and you come with nothing. Now we're going to spend many years after birth gathering things, possessions, power, maybe fame, whatever it is that your mind desires, or maybe craves is a better word. We're going to gather a bunch of things, spend a lot of time and energy in this life for these things. And when we leave, we can't take any of it with us. So some people might hear that and it may sound dark. To me, it's actually important. And when I first read it, I was like, we come into this world with nothing. We're going to gather a bunch of stuff, spend a lot of time learning things, doing things, all for what? If you watched my video, I'm not even sure what it's titled, but it's the video I talked about thinking of death can help you create more meaning in your life. I talked about imagine that you are on your deathbed. Like we don't know what it's going to be like. I mean, if we're lucky, we're going to have a deathbed. We could die in about 5 minutes or unexpectedly. So this idea of imagining being on your deathbed is after talking to some people, especially a friend of mine who works in hospice. And he said that most people he worked with who were dying were not thinking about, boy, I should have made more money. I should have had more cars or a better house. Uh, they didn't talk about any of these things. So it kind of really puts it in perspective of what is most important. What are we doing here as a human being? We come into this world with nothing, and we're going to leave with nothing. Michael, I have a funny story I tell about the first few times I heard the human root, starring you, Jason Quinn. The first times we were chatted, I completely ignored it as metaphysical. I see. I have a meeting to attend now. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Michael, for being here. Let's look at the next line in this poem. When you are born, where do you come from? And when you die, where do you go? So when I ask this question to people, of course, people are going to have different responses. Some people would say, when you were born, where did you come from? I came from my mother. So the point of the question, then, where did human beings come from, right? Science is trying to always investigate this. But really, it's a bigger question. Where did all of this come from? So if you practice Christianity, you could say everything comes from God. Yeah, I understand that answer. But in Zen, we're always questioning our understanding and questioning our beliefs. Because it's the attachment, the holding of our understanding and our beliefs that causes suffering in this world. You don't have to believe me on this. Just take a look at the news. So if everything came from God, where does God come from? So in Zen, there's a teaching in the Huayan Sutra that says Everything, this whole universe comes from mind alone. It's a very beautiful teaching. That means our suffering comes from our mind. But this whole universe, I guess it's like the riddle. If a tree falls in the forest and no one was there, does it make a sound? Something like that. It's pointing to this. So this teaching in Buddhism, people are satisfied this. Everything comes from mind. But again, in Zen, we always ask the great question, always challenging our assumptions, our beliefs, our opinions. If everything came from mind, then where did mind come from? Interesting question, right? So that's what this question, when you're born, where do you come from, is pointing to. I guess a Zen koan would be, what was your face before your parents were born? There's no intellectual answer that you can come up with because we're pointing to an experience before understanding, before our thinking. So, Ian, I'm not quite sure how to answer. For a while when I was younger, I would lie in bed and open my mind to existential consideration. For some reason, that would usually lead me to thoughts of nature. I understand. So we're going to talk about that, Ian, because your answer, wind blowing through the grass, is kind of a Zen style answer. You hear Zen Master Sung Song, the sky is blue, the tree is green, right? It's pointing to truth. But I'll get into that as we go through this poem. By the way, if you're just joining us, welcome to the live stream. If you haven't already, let us know in the chat where you are living. Also, if you have any questions about Zen, meditation, practice, any kind of question, put it in the chat. Ricky, some say the Tao, some say God, some say, yep, everything is mind. It's dependent origination, right? That's the thing. So always challenge that too, Ricky, right? Even what is it called? The 12 links to the 12 dependent links of origination. Can't remember how it's phrased though, but it has the whole chain of cause and effect and the whole chain of human suffering. So it ends up with suffering, but the very first one is all of our suffering comes from ignorance. Okay, we can be satisfied with that teaching, but always take it a step further. If everything comes from ignorance, then where did ignorance come from? Eventually, you cannot answer, right? It's like taking an onion and you're peeling the layers back. Eventually, you get to the place where you cannot answer. And that state has many names: enlightenment, true self, don't know mind, beginner's mind. There's many different names for it. But those names are just pointing to an experience. So it's actually experience before thinking. This is really important. All right, next line. When you die, where do you go? Okay, so obviously there's a lot of ideas about when you die, where you will go. Some say you go to heaven. Some say you go to hell. Some say nothing happens. Some say that you're reincarnated. Do we really know that? I know people who have had near-death experiences had some vision, but how can you really even trust that vision? If all of our delusion comes from mind, how do we know that's true? And I think what's more interesting to me, there's nothing wrong if you believe in one of these things, but here's something more interesting to me. So let's say I believe in reincarnation. Now, people will argue about that. That's fine. That's what the whole world does. What is the thing that believes in reincarnation. To me, that's more interesting. It's not the belief itself, it's the thing that believes. What is it? And really, in Zen practice, this is the core of the practice. What am I? Some may say, what is this? What is this thing that believes? All right, so these questions are meant to challenge our assumptions and our beliefs and our ideas. Because like I said earlier, many of us are attached to them, we're holding them, and it's causing suffering for ourselves and others. The next line in the poem. Life is like a floating cloud which appears. Death is like a floating cloud which disappears. So this seems logical, right? Life is like a cloud, appears. Death is like a floating cloud that disappears. But the next line says, the floating cloud itself originally does not exist. So again, it's challenging our assumptions, because everything we believe in and know is what somebody told us. Even if we had some kind of experience, there's the narrative that we add to experience that makes it actually completely disconnected, but now it's just some idea. So how do we really know? So this floating cloud itself originally does not exist. So this is pointing back to the experience before thinking. Where does the floating cloud come from? Who makes life? Who makes death? In this very moment, where is it? Life and death, coming and going, are also like that. So this is pointing to the opposites world. So I guess in many spiritual traditions, it's called dualistic thinking, duality. Duality is not good or bad. What this poem's stating or pointing to is it's created by our mind. If I create this concept of ego or I, me, already this idea separates the whole universe into opposites. I, you, us, them, good, bad, right, wrong. Do you see how I'm doing this? I'm right and you're wrong. The whole world's doing this. This is the nature of dualistic thinking. It has a natural result. If we use this duality as a filter to perceive the world. Even Shakespeare, I can't remember what play it was, wrote this line. Good and bad does not exist, but thinking makes it so. He wasn't Buddhist, but he understood the human condition, or at least at that moment. Thinking makes good and bad. Thinking makes life and death. Thinking makes I and you. So the poem says life and death and coming and going are also like that. So the floating cloud itself originally does not exist. It's created by thinking. And so is life and death coming and going. Ian, the lines about life and death as the floating cloud leads me to recall Dogen's treatment of fire and ash. Fire is completely firewood, ash is ash. That's interesting. Maybe I got that from Dogen because I usually talk about if you read the Heart Sutra, there's a line about form is emptiness, emptiness is form. Okay, this is just intellectual thinking. It doesn't exist, as this poem states. But it's a good teaching maybe when we're first learning about Buddhism or Zen. So that's interesting you say it. So I always talk about a tree. A tree has name and form. Has a form, and we label it tree. Now, obviously, if you live in Korea, you don't call it a tree. If you live in the Czech Republic, you don't call it a tree. But here we call it a tree. But this form is empty. And what that means, it doesn't mean it's nothing. It just means it has no self-permanent nature. Because if I chop this tree down and then chop it into logs, do you call it a tree? No, you call it logs. So this emptiness is form. The form is empty. Emptiness is form. And what this means, as far as a teaching goes, is everything is always changing. Sometimes we don't know what it changes into, but it's always changing. So now we have logs. So what if I set these logs on fire, burned it down completely? This form is now empty. Do you call it logs? No, we call it ashes. So that means that, I guess going back to the Heart Sutra, form is form. The tree is just tree. Logs are just logs. Ashes are just ashes. So back to the poem. So the line floating cloud itself originally does not exist. Life and death, coming and going are also like that. But there is one thing which always remains clear. It's pure and clear, not depending on life and death. Then what is the one pure and clear thing? This is probably the most important part of the poem, and it really wraps everything up and gives us a big question. Because there is something, it's just not what we think. When people hear this word emptiness, they have like this feeling of void and life is empty. It's not that. It's not a feeling. Emptiness just means that there's nothing that has the self-permanent nature. So often in Zen, we talk about our original mind, this enlightened mind. And the analogy is it's like a mirror. A mirror doesn't have anything in it. It just reflects everything as it is. So if I point it to the wall, it's reflecting white. If I point it to the floor, it's reflecting brown. If I point it to the window, it's reflecting gray. It's not depending on life, death, coming, going, good, bad, like, and dislike, because that's the problem. This clear mirror, we write I. Now there's a you. Now there's us, them, good, bad, right, wrong. Now this mirror is clouded. This mirror cannot reflect clearly anymore. So it's the same way with our minds. All of us have some kind of filter. All of us, okay? It's not just them. We respond differently because of this condition, but this filter, we start to perceive the world through this delusion. So in our practice, we make a vow. We vow to see through these delusions. In fact, the four great vows, the second one says, delusions are endless. It's not like you practice for a certain amount of years, right? I've been practicing over 27 years, sat several 90-day retreats. It's not like you practice this and then boom, delusions are gone. Every moment there's a delusion. Can you see through them? Let's see. I'm not gonna pronounce this right, so I'm sorry in advance. Kestutis. Kestutis? Hello, can I take koan no matter which one, or I need Zen master who asked me? Now, if you're talking about formal koan practice, if that's what your intention is, then of course, yeah, you want to connect with the teacher. Hopefully, has been authorized to teach koans. But remember, every moment is a koan. Because koan means something appears. Our job is to connect. So sometimes we say become one and then respond. Simple as that. But of course, the wording in the koans has a big fishing hook in it. And we're trying to capture people when they bite it. Don't touch the fishing hook. That means don't attach to the words. Pierce the true meaning behind the words. Then the answer will appear. So going back to the mirror, all of the stuff clouding our view, if we just take it away, all of it in this moment, airplanes flying by. That's it. Simple as that. Okay? So if you're looking to do formal Kongan training, try to find a teacher. Ricky, fundamentally, no wisdom tree exists, nor the stand or mirror bright. Since all is empty from the beginning, where can the dust alight? So, Ricky, you're reciting the Six Patriarchs poem, or now we say Sixth Ancestor, I guess. Let me pull that up so people have a little bit of context. Let me get my Kongan book. 1 second. The whole world's a single flower. Great Nos says, can a waterfall be your teacher? Once a monk was walking with the Zen master past a waterfall. And the monk asked the teacher, how can I enter Buddhahood? And the teacher said, do you hear the waterfall? The monk said, yes. And the teacher said, enter there. All right. I think we have a little time to read this. So I'm going to read this poem that Ricky's referring to. I did a whole workshop on the Platform Sutra. If you're in my Patreon community, I did a whole workshop on it. And I talk about the Sixth Ancestors teaching and how it's relevant to our lives. And we looked at this situation. If you're ever interested in supporting my YouTube channel, here's some info for you. So in this workshop, we looked at this poem. So to make a long story short, the fifth ancestor of Zen was looking for a successor. Many people thought that the head monk who's been there for a long time, he was the most senior, would take over the lineage. Well, Huining, before he was a Zen master, was just a person from the South who didn't know how to read or write, but was really interested in Zen. So the head monk, so The fifth ancestor had this contest to see who really has pierced this enlightenment. And of course, everybody expected the head monk to be the successor. And the head monk wrote a poem. And here's his poem. This is the way it's translated by Zen Master Sung Song. Body is Bodhi tree. Mind is clear mirror stand. Always clean, clean, clean. Don't keep dust. Now, the fifth ancestor, when he heard this poem or read it, he knew that this head monk had only understanding. Right? There's the understanding of the teaching, and then there's our experience. So he told the fifth ancestor, told the head monk to rewrite the poem. Just thinking, just an idea. Because what's really important, how do we first experience this enlightened nature? And then how do we express it from moment to moment? So anyways, the sixth ancestor wrote a poem that hit line by line this head monk's poem. So sixth patriarch wrote, Bodhi has no tree, clear mirror has no stand. Originally nothing. So where is dust? So line by line, he's hitting this poem because the head monk said, body is Bodhi tree. But the sixth ancestor said, body has no tree, right? That's created by thinking. The head monk said, mind is clear mirror stand. The sixth ancestor said, clear mirror has no stand. The head monk said, always clean, clean, clean. The sixth ancestor said, originally there's nothing. The head monk said, don't keep dust. And the sixth ancestor said, where is dust, right? So we talked about the Heart Sutra, and I think maybe we can use that as a reference. So it would all tie together, I hope. So Heart Sutra, we talked about form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. I used the analogy of the tree. That's just thinking. Thinking and understanding. That's the realm. There's nothing wrong with it. But it's not going to really help our lives. And in like this case too, there's no experience of our origination and expressing it. So if you continue in the Heart Sutra, there's no form and no emptiness. Right? Because that is all created by thinking. If you take all of these things away, then what? But this, even the sixth ancestor's poem's not complete. And Zen Master Sung Song pointed this out. Because form is form, emptiness is emptiness. So here's a Zen poem. Mountain is water. Water is mountain, right? Everything has the same substance. Science is proving this. Like you and stardust are the same. So that's form is emptiness, emptiness is form. No form, no emptiness is pointing to no mountain, no water. So before we had mountain is water, water is mountain. Now we have no water, no mountain, all created by thinking. If you're not thinking, what? That's why I use this hit. That sound does not have mountain, does not have water, does not have form, does not have emptiness, does not have I, doesn't have you. It's before thinking. But we must take another step. And this is the vow we have taken, if you've taken the Bodhisattva vows. But it's in the Mahayana tradition. Mountain is blue, water is flowing. Coming back to the world of truth. The wall is white, floor is brown, outside it is raining. So Zen Master Sung Song wanted us to hit the sixth ancestor's poem. So Ricky, this is your assignment. The sixth patriarch said, Bodhi has no tree, clear mirror has no stand, originally nothing. So where is dust? So line by line, you must come back to the realm of form is form, emptiness is emptiness. And all that means is come back to the world of truth, okay? All right. Ian, the complete moment, the mirror unsmudged, there is nothing that is not the one pure and clear thing. That's correct. So you gave a very good explanation of that. So if we look at the very last line, but there is one thing which always remains clear. It is pure and clear, not depending on life and death. Then what is the one and pure, clear thing? So that means the world of truth. Mr. Jet Mango, I only have 2 questions for tonight. Is all desire always leading to suffering? What about desire to help all beings? Second question is, what software you're using for streaming? Yes. All right, that's the easy one. I'm using StreamYard, and I'm not sure how long I can use it because I can't afford it. Actually, somebody purchased for me who's maybe still here in the live stream. Are you still here? Yeah, it's a great platform. Love to use it. Very intuitive, but they raise the cost like so much. It's out of my world, actually. So I'm trying to look for another one. But StreamYard, highly recommended if you have a lot of money and you do streaming. All right. So the other question was, let's see, I think I lost it. All right. So all desire leading to suffering. What about the desire to help all beings? Okay. I was just thinking about this kind of desire to understand our true self. There's something different about that than wanting something. So usually we're looking outside of ourselves, like trying to get things to make us happy, content, secure. That's not good or bad. So I want to point that out. Sometimes it seems like desire is bad. It's not bad. Remember, good and bad is made by thinking. Shakespeare told us this. There's only 3 things that can happen, though, with grasping after something to make us happy. The first one is you don't get it. Dissatisfied. We've all had that experience. Or you get it. But as this poem states, coming empty-handed, going empty-handed. There's not one thing in this world that we can keep, not even this body. That's dissatisfying. Or we get that thing and we want it to be a little bit different. If only I had a little more money, if I was a little bit taller, if my spouse was nicer to me, right? All of these things. All right, that's the natural result of grasping after something. Now, this desire, maybe even a more clear word to say it, aspiration to understand our true self. Your enlightenment nature, your true self is already here. There's not a thing that's going to help you to get it. Sometimes we think if we watch the right video or listen to the special teacher or read something in a book that it's going to give it to us. That's not true. It may help open up something so we can realize what we already have. But do you see the difference there? We already have enlightenment nature. We are already complete. But if you're chasing outside of yourself, if I do 1,000 retreats and follow this teacher or read this book, yeah, that's a problem. So what I recommend, and I said this in one of my videos recently, take away the desire to help all beings. Because even the idea of wanting to help can get in the way of actually helping. So earlier I made the analogy of the clear mirror, and how it's clouded with all of these things that we created. If we take all of those things away, even Zen or helping this world, then your mind becomes this moment. That means you and this universe are not separate, and something out of that appears. And we call that helping this world. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, Kestudis, thank you. You're welcome. Antonio, hey, thank you for your teachings. Good to see you, Antonio. Glad you're here, and you're welcome. Ricky, from a Buddhist perspective, there are wholesome and unwholesome desires, from my understanding. You know, sometimes Buddhist teachings can be influenced on culture and religion. So, with any teaching, I mentioned it earlier, don't attach to the words. What are the words pointing to? Because there's really wholesome and unwholesome is still the opposites world. Yeah, we use it to explain things, to encourage people to practice. You know, you hear this teaching that everything's changing. Do you believe that? I just said it in the stream, so maybe you do believe it. Maybe I believe it, right? That means something appears, stays for some time, and disappears. That's not true. This moment does not have coming and going. If everything's changing, means I have a past, a present, and a future. But where is the past? Show it to me right now. No one can bring even 1 second of it. Bring me the future. There's a lot of talk about that, but not one person can bring a second here. Even this moment, once I say this moment, it's already gone. So remember, these are just teaching words. You know, this can be very abstract if I talk to someone. If I talk to my neighbor and said, there is no past, there's no future, there's no good and bad, they might look at me like I'm crazy. So I start slowly with them. You know, everything appears in this world, stays for some time, and disappears. Like, oh yeah, that happened to me. I just had a relationship and now it's gone. So you're starting to make that connection of impermanence. So that's step one, right? We get a little further until there are no steps and there's no opposites world. It's just this moment. Okay. Great notes. I got to go, unfortunately. Thank you for what you are doing, Jason. Thank you for your support. Mr. Jet Mango, thank you. Going to eat now. Very hungry. Enjoy it, and we'll watch it later. Actually, we're ending. Thank you all and Jason for doing these live streams. Helena, so sorry to hear about StreamYard. What a pity. Talk about coming and going. Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah, I still have till, I think, May to make a decision. It's not going to stop me from streaming. Bare minimum, I'll stream right from YouTube. I won't be able to share my screen and do other things, but I can live with that. But I am looking to another platform that's half the cost. Hopefully that will work. All right, so let's look at the last line before we go. Then what is the one pure and clear thing? So when we look at this question, what is the one pure and clear thing? It's not my idea of it. It's not your idea of it. It's not Zen's idea or Buddha's idea. What is it right now in this moment? It's not about explaining it. We can say, oh, the one and pure clear thing, oh, that's this moment. What is this moment? You can look all of this up on Google, do a search and find these things out, but it's not going to help your life. What can help is look at this question or ask the question, not from here, but from your gut. What is the one pure and clear thing. Take away everything in our mind in this moment, then everything wakes up. Your eyes wake up. Your ears wakes up. Your nose wakes up. Your tongue, body, and mind all becomes clear. And this is what can truly help our lives and truly help this world. Ricky, thank you for your teachings today. Very helpful. I'm glad to hear that. Helena, thank you for your teaching tonight. You're very welcome. Adam, thank you for your donation there. I keep forgetting to tell people this. I guess is that a super sticker or super chat? There's many ways, obviously, to support this channel. I've been putting a lot more energy into YouTube lately. I'm not sure if you've noticed, but in order for me to have the time to make this, I really rely on the Patreon community. So thank you everyone who's in the Patreon community for keeping this going. This helps me keep doing these live streams, making videos, doing workshops and things like that. So I really appreciate that. But you don't have to support by monetary means. If you want to support my channel, just subscribing to my channel, interacting with the videos, commenting, things like that, sharing the videos, that really helps a lot. But thank you all for being here. I really appreciate you. Very good questions today, so thank you for that. It makes great content. I guess this video is recorded, so if you want to watch back, you can share it with someone. For those Patreons, I will put this in the podcast, the audio podcast for you all. Ian says, thank you, Helena. Really enjoying your shorts on YouTube. It's nice to hear that, Helena, because you've been around for a long time following this whole project. So I really appreciate you saying that. It's an experiment. And what I've done is I'm not creating shorts on the spot. I'm just highlighting. So videos that had the most engagement, I'm just picking pieces from those videos and putting them to daily shorts. And I've been getting a lot of good feedback on this. So it's good to hear from you, Helena. So thank you for that. Ian, thank you, Jason. Thank you, everyone, for your practice, for being here. Have a clear day.